Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
6:06 now on this Monday morning. Thanks for joining us and letting us be a part of your morning routine. At 7:05, Joe DeGenova will be our guest. At 7:45, Trevor Maddich on that gritty Commanders victory in Denver. And then at 8:05, Tristan Levitt of Empower Oversight. That's the group representing the IRS whistleblower in the Hunter Biden investigation. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlaw.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. All right, so Donald Trump gives this interview to NBC News. Why does he keep doing that? Why does he give interviews to the NBC News?
I don't.
They're going to be. It's going to be. I guess. Well, people like the fact that he gets attacked. That actually helps him. When the media acts the way the media acts with him, that actually helps him. But it also, sometimes he can. Well, I'll let you be the judge. Here he is asked by this the new host of Meet the Press, who clearly wants abortion to be legal. And he is asked specifically about the heartbeat bills. I got to tell you something, though, and Trump, and maybe this is sort of part of his appeal, but Trump has spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks talking about how much Democrats like him. In one of the clips that I saw over the weekend about the vaccine.
Yeah.
This was in the Megyn Kelly interview. And Megyn Kelly said, are you proud of the vaccine? And he said, well, no, I wouldn't say I'm proud of it, but I got to tell you, I hear from people. I hear from Democrats. Democrats will send me messages, and they say, you may have saved 100 million lives with this. And he keeps, touting the vaccine, but I'm not proud of it, and I certainly didn't want mandates. But then he always falls to this thing where it's like, well, Democrats liked it. Democrats said this, and Democrats said that. And maybe that's a smart thing in the general election. But when you're in the primary process and you want Republicans to vote for you, why are you celebrating how Democrats like you so much?
Because he doesn't care about the primary because he's so far ahead. I think he's just like
he's already moving.
He's campaigning for the.
Well, then given that, listen to this specific line of questioning about abortion bills in certain states like Florida, Iowa, Ohio, Georgia that draw the line at a heartbeat. Now, certain people are drawing that line at various weeks. Some are 5 weeks, 6 weeks, some are 15 weeks. Listen.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going to be weighing in on this election a very clear sense of where you stand on this.
I think they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me.
What's going to have to happen is you're going to have to
this question. Listen, please. You're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy, because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15
weeks? Are you talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks.
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that goes too far?
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
All right. So now listen, it's laudable to say that I'm going to sit with both sides and we're going to come up with something that we all agree on. When he says that both sides are going to like me on abortion, I'm sorry, that's impossible.
Right.
There's nothing you can do where both sides are going to like you on abortion. Now, if he's talking about the majority of people, it's truly polls show, not 92%, sir, but polls do show that across the board, over 60% of Americans all feel like 15 weeks is the place to sit.
Yeah, and certainly I would say that higher number believe there should be some limits. A general sort of, there should be some limits.
By the way, at some point in this exchange, the idea of abortion right up until the moment of birth was raised, because that is, in fact, the
and
stated
denied
but
overwhelmingly by this reporter who became a Democrat operative at that point, saying that, no, Democrats don't want on demand up to 40 weeks. No, that's not true. I mean, we know Kathy Tran right here in Virginia tried to push that. That was a viral moment of her saying, up until birth, a woman should be able to get abortion.
Well, Ralph Northam bragged about it as well.
And I actually retweet. Curtis Hoke had a great thread on the efforts in different states of Democrats trying to make sort of on demand up to 40 weeks.
It is the law in New York.
And it is an absolute thing
100%.
that Democrats want abortion until birth.
Right up until birth.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that is the law in the state of New
And
York.
I wish he had pushed that more. I wish he had talked about how extreme the left is becoming on abortion, or has been on abortion, rather than some of the stuff that he said. But
it's the law of the land in the state of New York. It's the law in the state of California. It's the law in the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
In the state of Maryland, you can do that. It was Kristen Welker, by the way. She's the new
thank
host of Meet the Press. And she was also the moderator at one of the debates where she let Joe Biden just walk all over the place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. I think that this is, listen, there was another part to say that a 5-week bill or a 6-week bill in Florida is a terrible thing.
I know. Yeah.
Is an odd statement to make as a man who I believe is pretty pro-life.
Well, and is the reason Roe was overturned. I mean, let's face
Donald
it.
Trump is the reason why we don't have Roe v. Wade, and we're even having this debate at a state-by-state level. To then pivot in some way and say, I'm going to make everybody happy, and what they did in Florida is a terrible thing. Well, that thing is only possible because of Roe v. Wade being overturned.
I really firmly believe that Trump is now looking at those numbers that say, 82% of Democrats, according to this new CNN poll that came out last week, that 82% of Democrats want to see someone besides the current president. I think he is looking to bring those people over. He is appealing to those Democrats who think Biden is too old and too feeble and can't be the president. I think Trump right now is campaigning to those people, to that demographic.
There was another time, a part of the interview where Donald Trump said Republicans are terrible and terrible about talking about abortion and articulating it, and that's true. But by the way, Trump isn't that great about it either. Here's my problem, and a lot of people's problem with what you heard from Donald Trump right there was like, listen, some people say this, some people say that. I'll get people together. We'll work a consensus. Most people who have strong, passionate feelings about abortion, one way or the other, have it's in their moral fiber. It's part of their understanding of the value of life and its inherent value, and that's not something you negotiate. Now, we may end up with some negotiated settlement just because of the messy business of our democratic republic that we have. But you don't get a sense from Donald Trump that this is something that it is in his DNA.
No, absolutely. I agree. But, I found that line frustrating where he says Republicans are really bad at communicating this. I got really frustrated at that moment because if anyone should know how unfair the media is, it is Donald Trump. And on abortion, is there a subject where the media is worse?
That's a great point.
The media will never give pro-lifers or Republicans for that matter, a fair hearing on this issue. They don't discuss it. It's like the trans issue. The media refuses.
That
to
is a
cover this.
Terrific point. He should know better than anyone how the media is
unfair,
intolerant, unfair, and unforgiving about any Republican who dares to. I mean, he was just facing it off with Kristen Welker in that interview,
right?
Who was constantly misrepresenting the truth. All right, a little bit more from this interview. Let's move on from the abortion issue. There's more from this interview that is quite laudable, and there's some things that are, well, definitely. He still sees his main opponent as Ron DeSantis because he spent most of his time going after DeSantis. We'll give you a lot of that, and also some time he took going after Biden in this interview. Donald Trump, one-on-one with Meet the Press. By the way, really helping Meet the Press's headlines. This is the first episode where Kristen Welker is the new host. Why is he helping the people who hate him? Why is he helping he could have helped.
He could have gone on your show.
Could have got anybody's show. Anyone else. Everyone. I assure you, Meet the Press will cover it if you go on another show. But that's he likes the media. It's 6:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Jamie Whitten and the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic.
Since 1939. News Talk 105.9.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
So we went over the exchange on abortion where he said that what Florida and Iowa and Ohio and Georgia has done with heartbeat bills is a terrible thing. He'll reach consensus and everybody will be happy, which just is naive, I think, at the very least.
Yes.
So it's confusing and it's frustrating. By the way, I think President Trump was a good president. If he is my choice, I will vote for him in the general election 100% without any reservation. But that doesn't mean he isn't frustrating sometimes. Right. It doesn't mean that when you're watching, it's like, don't say that. Or don't say it like that. And why are you doing that? That's just the reality. And I'm sorry, I have to be real about it. So there's that frustration over the abortion issue. But then there's other moments where he's spot on and he's exactly the guy you want. in that position.
Could I say one thing? Look at all the lies he's told over the last couple of weeks. He said he was at the World Trade Center, and he wasn't. He said he flew airplanes, right? He didn't. He said he drove trucks, and he didn't. Everything he says is like a lie. It's terrible.
Mr. President,
even his handicap in golf, he said he's a 6. He's not a 6.
I want to stay focused on you for the purposes of this interview, okay? Because it's important that we hear from you about all of this.
Well, I'd like you to, but you keep interrupting me.
Which I love.
See that,
but
though?
Also,
See that?
But that whole thing, I want to focus on you.
See that shit? Yeah, I don't want to talk about the guy
Right.
you're running against, which is normal
Right.
to do that in an
Of course.
interview.
And this is a moment where Donald Trump can say, excuse me, you guys have spent every waking moment, allegedly telling the American people about my lies. Look at, do you ever mention this?
Yeah.
Do you ever mention
Yeah.
these things that this guy says about himself?
You are facing 4 indictments, 91 felony charges.
If you would say it properly, I'm facing 4 Biden indictments. He told the Justice Department to indict him, or Merrick Garland said, let's indict him.
Let me ask you this, Mr.
They
President.
indicted their political opponent.
I just want to hear from you on this. I want to know what's in your head. When you go to bed at night, do you worry about going to jail?
No, I don't, really. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, how do you do it, sir? How do you do it? I don't even think about it. These are corrupt people that I'm dealing with. They're destroying our country. I don't even think about it. All I think about is making the country great, making America great. Look, these are political, these are Banana Republic indictments. These are third world indictments. The President of the United States sees how we're doing. We have a movement, the likes of which has never happened in this country before. And you see it with the polls. I mean, I'm up on these people by 60 points and 59 points. I don't mean I'm at 59. I'm leading them by 59. You almost say, like, why are they campaigning? Asa Hutchinson, he's at 0. Christie's at 2. Other ones are at 1. DeSanctimonious is at 9. I just see a poll come. I mean, I'm leading him by 60 points.
Mr. President.
And you say, why are they doing it? But here's what they did. They saw this happening. And he went to the Attorney General of the United States, and he told them, indict Trump.
There's just no evidence of that, Mr.
why?
President.
Because you mean he's
But let's stay on track.
There's just no evidence of that.
Just
Mr.
astonishing.
President. Yeah. We are look forward, by the way, to Joe Biden sitting for an interview this thorough and this detailed and this energetic. And we look forward to Kristen Welker fact-checking him in real time, too, which, of course, will never happen. You saw the Megyn Kelly interview last week, which was a very good interview as well, on both sides.
Yeah.
And I got it. The one thing Megyn Kelly came away with, and I don't know if you saw her show on Friday, where she said, I'll say this about there is no possible way Joe Biden could sit with me for over an hour and take the range of questions and respond in real time the way Donald Trump just did. He can barely make it through a scripted press appearance.
Yeah, I was impressed. I think I watched most of this. I was impressed that, he said DeSanctimonious 1 or 2 times, but his language was not quite as filled with those sort of insults that he's known for. I thought he was fairly well controlled.
He also had something to say about Nancy Pelosi when the subject of January 6th came up and who's really responsible for not bringing in the National Guard. We want to have you hear that. And if we have time, Ron DeSantis also had an interview with Howard Kurtz, and you'll hear that in a moment. All right, a little bit more from this interview with Donald Trump. You know what? We're going to hold this over because what he had to say about January 6th and the confrontation Kristen Welker threw at him about January 6th was so disingenuous and wrong that I want to take some time on that. So we're going to carry that over to the news. I do want you to hear what Ron DeSantis had to say with Howard Kurtz yesterday.
Now, Trump also said in a recent interview that if he's back in the White House, he would have the Justice Department prosecute his political opponents. Isn't that the same accusation that he's making against the Biden White House?
Well, look, I would note he ran in 2016 saying he was going to appoint a special prosecutor for Hillary's emails. You remember that? And a lot of us thought that that was appropriate because they didn't really do a very thorough investigation of her. 2 weeks after he got elected, he said, forget it. That's what you say before the election. It's not what you say after the election. So he didn't follow through on that promise. And it's not about going after your opponents. What we need to do is just have a single standard of justice in this country.
So as president, would you pledge to treat the Justice Department as an independent agency when it comes to criminal investigations, that you would not get involved?
It's not independent from accountability.
Sure.
So I am not going to say to the Justice Department, that Howie Kurtz guy, go find. No, that's not appropriate. But if they are not pursuing like BLM rioters, I have every right to bring the Attorney General in and say, you need to get on this stuff. This is serious stuff. If you have the FBI that's pursuing parents at school board meetings, you have every right to say, fire those agents who did that. So we're going to hold them accountable. We're not going to use it, to go after people for no reason. But we are going to set the priorities that they're going to do. And for my priorities, it's not going to be ticky-tack political stuff. It's going to be the things that really matter to keep this country safe.
So, number one, Trump promised he was actually going to enforce the law against Hillary Clinton because it obviously had been bastardized under Obama. And then he didn't, which is true. I mean, he said, she's been through enough. And look how that turned out.
Right.
And then finally, when pressed by Kurtz, which is ridiculous, the Justice Department is independent, but that doesn't mean it's on remote control.
Right.
You just step back and say, do your thing. I have nothing to say about it. No, you give them a direction and you oversee it. You don't meddle. You don't obstruct.
But certainly if there's corruption, you deal with that.
All right. Speaking of which, corruption, most of it in the media, was obvious in the line of questioning with Donald Trump yesterday about January 6th. You'll hear that next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now. Now.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
6:37 on O'Connor and Company this Monday morning, and we have a tight schedule, Julie Gunlock. Tight as Lauren Boebert's going out to see the theater dress. Sorry.
She did look
She looked gorgeous.
She looked great.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to keep my hands off her when the lights go down. Who among us?
Oh, Lord.
Coming up later if I weren't married.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Good.
I would never do
Nice
that.
catch there. That was good.
Coming up at 7:05, Joe DiGenevo will be our guest. 7:45, Trevor Maddich on the Commanders' victory. And at 8:05, Tristan Levitt. I'm just making a joke. I apologize to the good Congresswoman.
We know it's a joke.
Although, knowing Lauren Boebert and having spent a little time with her offline, she would appreciate that kind of humor.
I'm sure she would.
She's a good old gal. All right. Back to Donald Trump's interview with Kristen Welker. Meet the Press. The subject of 9/11 came up. Take a listen.
I want to know who you called
By the way,
on that day.
Nancy Pelosi. I
wanna
don't
talk
have.
about
Why
that
would
day.
I tell you that? Listen,
Don't wanna
Nancy
talk about
Pelosi
that?
was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under?
Now, this is a question out of ignorance.
Yes.
Because literally it is unconstitutional for President Trump to call military or law enforcement.
Right.
He has, I guess theoretically he's in charge of certain federal law enforcement agencies,
Sure.
but none that he could command to go employ
Right.
any sort of jurisdiction at the Capitol
Right.
or in Washington, D.C. And he certainly can't command the military to intervene.
Also, can you imagine a president calling military on the Capitol building?
Right, on the
There's a
Capitol building and
reason-
American citizens.
Right. There's a reason. These are the president, the Congress oversees the executive.
Right.
Okay. So the optics of that, of a president calling the military to surround the Capitol, that's not allowed.
Oh my God! Absolutely, it's not. Absolutely, it's not. And anyone who knows this situation knows that it's Mayor Bowser of the District of Columbia, de facto governor, so to speak, and Nancy Pelosi who have the responsibility and authority to bring in the National Guard.
But also, can you imagine if he had done that on that day? The narrative then would have been, and then Trump called out the military to overthrow the government.
That's right, to engineer the coup.
It would have been a coup.
Of course. So that question from Kristen Welker is completely born out of ignorance.
Tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that, and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have the authority that
the
you
police
have as
testified
commander in
against.
chief, though.
Listen to
Okay, that would be ignorance number 2.
Yes.
That he does not have authority as commander-in-chief to call the military for a domestic situation. Period. End of story.
And to secure the Capitol, that's her job.
They can't even call in the military for disaster relief for a hurricane or riot or uprising unless the governor asks for it. Who doesn't know this?
Yes.
We see this play out every time.
Who didn't go through Katrina?
Right.
Remember?
There's a hurricane in New Orleans. There's
The
a
governor
hurricane in
has to
Florida.
declare. The mayor has to ask
right.
for assistance. I mean, this is how it works, folks.
The president can't come in and just say, do this. Everybody knows that. She
Except
should
her.
lose her job. She should lose her job right now, today.
The lady in charge of Meet the Press. Meet the Press. A bunch of
Kristen,
idiots.
listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her. Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people?
Wait, but don't let that just lay there, because now she wants to change the subject.
Right, of course.
I bet NBC News has never covered the fact that the January 6th Commission literally destroyed their evidence at the end of their committee proceedings. So nobody can go in now and triage that and sort of put together exactly what that committee heard that they didn't allow the American people to hear.
Right.
But no, let's move on. What do you say to people? And by the way, whenever a journalist does this, not whenever, most of the time when journalists do this, what do you say to people who think it's really what they think?
Right.
They're third personing it, right?
Who wonder why you as commander-in-chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have. As
No,
commander-in-chief.
she has authority over
Why
the
didn't you
Capitol.
send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just
stop
so
it.
you know.
No, it's her request. He authorized it. Again, inartful President Trump used the correct language. He didn't request the National Guard. The president doesn't request the National Guard. He pre-authorized it. And there are two witnesses to that fact that he pre-authorized. If Nancy Pelosi or Mayor Bowser ask for the National Guard, it is already authorized, pre-authorized. That happens all the time, by the way. When a hurricane is coming, a president will pre-authorize National Guard for disaster assistance when the request comes in. So there's no delay.
That's right.
And that's what he did.
That's right.
And again, Kristen Welker engaging in this conversation and this line of inquiry on a show that used to have a high profile, Meet the Press, without knowing the basic facts of this critical aspect of January 6th is absolutely an abomination of journalism.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you
the
about
mayor
pardons,
let me
Mr.
tell you.
President.
The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking
of
about the
Capitol
day of,
Police,
though.
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Mr.
And the
President, you're the
J6
president,
committee
though. You
refused to interview
you have
her.
authorities that no one else has.
I love it how they want the president to be a dictator.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing.
You have authorities that no one else has. No, there's actually
Not for
constitutional
this.
limits on him.
That's
That
right.
is a wonderful thing. And she doesn't know, and she keeps arguing with him.
It's ignorance, and good for President Trump
Yes.
in holding the line on that and keeping that going. All right, it is 6:40. All right, let me try to contain myself here. I mentioned Lauren Boebert's tight dress. It's a great dress, beautiful dress. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is getting some flack because she attended a Broadway musical national tour in Colorado and Denver, and she was kicked out during the first act because, well, we were told it was because she was singing along, laughing too
Vaping.
loud, and vaping in the theater. And after 3 complaints, ushers and manager come down there and escort her out. And there's video of all of this. And you know, the video does, in fact, I don't know if it shows if she's singing or laughing. It does show her vaping at one point.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't mention it too often, but I am a former theater manager.
Yeah.
So
What
I
would-
looked at this
what
story.
Would you do? What would you have done?
Well, we had to deal with this
Yeah.
stuff sometimes. I was a manager pre-vaping, certainly. But sometimes, well, now, generally, it took a lot for me to kick somebody out of the theater.
I'll tell you, if you lit up a marijuana cigarette, you'd probably be fine. But the fact that she was vaping was the real injury there.
Especially in Denver, right?
Yeah.
But then the surveillance video, there's infrared video in the theaters, and just so you know, you do that for security and liability purposes. Also, if actors come out into the aisles, the stage management, they have to see what's going on in
Sure.
the blackout, right? So in case there's obstructions or anything else going on, so they can give cues. So it's not uncommon for there to be a camera like this. A lot of people are, conspiracy. Why do they have a camera on her? That's standard. What then came out after this story broke is that there was a part of the show, or there was a time during this dark theater moment where she and her boyfriend there got kind of handsy with each other.
Yeah.
There was sort of
Ooh.
there was some grabbing. There was some fondling.
There was.
Frankly, I think is the best way to put it.
Yes.
And I just want you to know. What?
Here we go.
No. As my old theater manager days, I had some very romantic shows. I had Beauty and the Beast in my theater. I had Sunset Boulevard in my theater. I had even Cats is romantic in its own way.
Not the movie.
Ragtime, things like that. This is not uncommon. By the way, Phantom of the Opera, I know for a fact people got kicked out of Phantom of the Opera for like going all the way.
Really?
In the balcony.
Wow.
Yeah. No, this is theater can be a very erotic sort of experience for people, especially you're out to a romantic dinner, you're having some drinks, you get to the theater, it's a very intimate experience.
I will just tell you that my husband and I were talking about this issue of the weekend. We're like, we are so boring on our date nights. We got to step it up. Really? I had no idea. Okay.
Well
I just want my popcorn.
They're both single, and so she's recently divorced, and things happen. I was having a conversation with Meredith and some friends who were over the weekend, and I said, "Listen, say what you will about this whole Boebert thing, but boy, that was a beautiful dress she was wearing.
She is
great.
She
dress.
is built."
And my friend Tommy said, "Absolutely, that was a fantastic dress." Every guy I've talked to is like, "That's the best dress." Meredith is like, "Oh, I actually."
Because if you haven't seen it. She is spilling out of this dress. It is very
some significant.
It's
what do you
a
call that?
sexy dress.
Decolletage. Yeah,
yes.
there's a decolletage situation.
Cleavage.
There.
Okay, is what I call it.
And it's just above the knee, and it's gold.
Yeah,
and
she looks great.
She looks
She
fabulous.
can definitely. Okay, calm down. She can definitely carry it off. Jeez.
So Meredith says, "Well, I only saw the infrared footage. So I showed her a picture from the lobby in full color of the dress, and she looks at it and she goes." What? That dress? That's way too revealing. That's a slutty dress. You know what?
This is Meredith, a good Oklahoma girl.
Good Oklahoma
You love a
Christian
Midwestern girl. I am a Midwestern
girl.
girl.
I said, I think it's a beautiful dress. And my friend Tommy's like, a great dress. And our friend Aaron says, a great dress.
My husband, too. Great dress.
And Meredith looks at me and she goes, oh, so is that how you want me to dress when we go out? And I start to open my mouth, and Tommy jumps across the table and says, "Don't answer that!
Don't
it!
It is a trap.
That is a trap.
It is a trap.
Good answer." So I said,
you know what I would think?
I looked at her and I said, "Honey, I like how you dress right now."
I would
when
take
we go
that
out.
from my husband as an invitation to go shopping.
So
that's
what
my husband would be terrified of.
Speaking of new dresses, how's your co-pair journey going, Julie?
I am not quite into this bodycon.
Is that one of the goals to get a Lauren Boebert dress?
No. My goals are much more wholesome, actually. I just want to go on long walks with my kids and, go to the trampoline park and ride my bike.
Oh, my God. Imagine wearing that dress at a trampoline park.
Okay, that's enough.
There will be injuries. Anyway, your co-pair journey is fantastic. Did you have a good weekend this weekend?
I did, and it was a lot of I had baseball. I had one kid was camping. There's a lot of time in the car, and
that's hard because it's so easy to just do a drive-through. Right.
That's right. And that's one of the benefits, which I don't know that I've talked a lot about, is that some of the co-pair food, they have bars, they have other things that I can just take with me,
pre-made shakes.
Put in the car. I have things that are in plastic bottles. I add water. It's like a shake. Very, very convenient. Now, I'm on the RX program, but the food that they give me really helps me stay on track and stay away from some temptations.
And that RX program is so powerful where you take the semaglutide under a doctor's supervision.
That's right.
And it takes the edge off
It
all
does.
those cravings and really gives you the tools you need.